40% pay increase and the restoration of pension benefits.
Is not going to look directly for signs of living organisms. It's really trying to prove that organisms could or could not exist in this environment. They're looking at the habitability of the moon, and that's the first step toward this question of, do planets like this or moons like this that have a lot of water? And this isn't the only one. There are several of those in our solar system and presumably in other solar systems that might be abodes for life. So it's a fascinating mission. Unfortunately, like you said, it's not going to get there till 2030. We're going to have to wait a little while for the results.
Yeah, like most things with space, we got to wait. It takes a while to get there. So, Bill, you kind of outlined what they're looking to do. How will they do it? I mean, how are they going to see through this ice sheet?
Well, they're not really, or even perhaps the interface where that crust meets the ocean below. They've got spectrometers to analyze the composition of the surface. It's possible that organic compounds have spewed out of fissures in the surface. So there might be material on the surface that would be an indicator of organic material and even possibly life. And of course, they've got high resolution cameras that are going to map 90% of this moon in extraordinary detail. They'll be able to see things down to the size of a car. And they're going to learn volumes about this moon and by extension, by other bodies in the solar system and the universe at large that are similar.
Wow. Has said the hostage taking was planned abroad, sleeping on the floor with little to eat and little hope. It is a fragile truce, and no one's certain it will hold. But right now, many Westerners just think it's far too risky to come here. Donna Friesen in Iraq, Moscow, Pakistan. I'm Donna Friesen, ahead tonight on Global National.
All lifetimes.
Comedy Central's The Daily Show, continuing election coverage, now streaming on Paramount+.
It's the place to be in the morning. TMS is the #1 Canadian news and lifestyle.
What? Everyone is going to change.
I've got secrets I can't tell.
True crime news, murder mysteries.
I raised the gun, but I pulled the trigger.
Deadly secrets.
Who killed him?
Inside Crime's most talked about news series, exclusives from some of the biggest true crime cases of our generation.
And they tried to destroy us, basically, by convicting Peter Patsy-Rai.
Plus a devastated dad who fought to save his daughter from a brutal death.
True Crime News, all new Mondays starting at 8 and Tuesday at 10:30 on Slice. Stream and Stack TV and the Global TV app.
Things are getting worse
when
around here.
kids play soccer, they imagine they're the stars. Who are we kidding? Everyone imagines the same thing. Watch FIFA Plus on Pluto TV.
Eye on America, weeknights on the CBS Evening News with Norah O'Donnell.
Live now.
Here we go.
The ultimate tradition continues.
From what I've seen, it's like chaos.
America's #1 news program is now a free streaming channel with full episodes anytime.
Hey, let's go.
60 minutes. Is this what you want? You're willing to talk about anything. I'm open to all of it.
The hardest hitting interviews.
The former president.
Today I ask you, are you ready to make your voices heard?
If we win Pennsylvania, we win the whole thing. It's over.
Their rallies today kick off an intense week of campaigning, with Harris hitting Wisconsin, Michigan, and Georgia, and Trump going to Georgia and Florida. This week, he ramped up the rhetoric against political rivals.
We have two enemies. We have the outside enemy, and then we have the enemy from within. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics, and I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military, because they can't let that happen.
Harris campaign spokesman Ian Sams.
Suggesting that the military should be used against his fellow citizens is beyond the pale. It's something that no president should ever do. Presidents should try to bring our country together.
Harris today focused on shoring up a key constituency, black men. The campaign is concerned that a lack of enthusiasm will lead to low voter turnout. Former President Barack Obama raised the issue last week.
Part of it makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president.
Harris announced a new plan aimed at winning them over, including $1 million forgivable small business loans, a focus on health issues that disproportionately affect black men, and legalizing recreational marijuana to boost the industry and create new jobs. Meanwhile, a scare on the campaign trail when police arrested Las Vegas resident Van Miller on his way to Trump's rally in Southern California on Saturday. Authorities say he had 2 loaded, unregistered guns in his SUV. But federal investigators say Trump was not in danger, and there's no indication this was an assassination attempt. Miller says he is a Trump supporter who is helping the re-election effort.
And Weijia Jiang joins us now from the Harris rally in Erie, Pennsylvania, a battleground section of a battleground state. Weijia, I want to ask you about the new CBS News poll. Okay, so we know the parties are ideologically opposed, but there's also a division on basic facts. One example, the border. Migration is at its lowest level since the Trump administration, but the polls show that not everyone sees it that way, do they?
That's right, John. CBS News actually tried to increase the number of migrants. So that is what is happening now. We also asked about what could happen come Election Day. And on the issue of whether there would be voter fraud in the 2024 race, just
John, good evening to you. CBS News has confirmed that FEMA personnel near Chimney Rock temporarily stopped operations after reports that armed militia members were threatening government workers in this area. But tonight, officials tell us that is not the full story.
One man armed FEMA workers. 44-year-old William Parsons was arrested, charged, then released on bond.
That's just fiction. There's no truth to that. There's not been any of that.
Communities here are still recovering more than 2 weeks after Helene hit.
People can't even get...
Communities here are still recovering more than 2 weeks after Helene hit.
People can't even get...
Communities here are still recovering more than 2 weeks after Helene hit.
People can't even get into Chimney Rock right now without an escort, and we are going in with a local business owner. It's going to be one of the first looks at this devastated community.
There is destruction in every direction. Amid tons of mud and debris, hundreds of soldiers clearing it by day, sleeping in a nearby park at night.
And the downstairs was just terrible. You know, gutted, totally gutted.
Right now we're in downtown Chimney Rock, and take a look across the river, what it has done to these homes. The water came up so high and the power just shredded them. Oh my goodness.
Water and mud now fill the first floor of Teresa and Glenn Cothran's home. They're staying at the Chimney Rock Inn, the hotel they own. It's closed. They don't know for how long.
Will you stay?
Yes.
We will be back. 100%. Chimney Rock is very resilient, and we will 100% be back.
I'm Tom Hansen in Manasota Key, Florida, a small beachfront community devastated by Hurricane Milton. Many homes here were torn to shreds, while others are digging out from several feet of sand. Block after block of obliterated homes, the silence punctuated by sound of smoke alarms. But there's no one to warn. 5 days after Milton's landfall, Manasota Key sits practically empty. Homeowner Gary McBride.
So this was a nice big room. It had 2 walls right across here. The sand blew out 4 sliders and 1 window over there.
And we're standing probably what, on 2.5 or 3 feet of sand?
I would say that's accurate, yes.
Just the amount of sand is truly unbelievable. I'm standing in a bedroom, and this is up to 5 feet.
This house was sitting over here.
Public Works Director John.
Sorry.
Decoys, off-the-shelf circuit boards made to look like laptops.
It absolutely is.
And why?
Why? Because there's no reason to trade blood for blood when we can trade blood for steel.
Putting that steel to work on future battlefields, Specialist William.
And participating in history being made. It's absolutely stunning.
And not your grandfather's 101st?
Nope, definitely not.
Now, a new generation is putting innovation to the test on the battlefields of the future. For
a day after the historic launch and landing of the world's largest rocket, a NASA spaceship zooms towards the icy moon of Jupiter. That's next.
Used to wear these baggy clothes and this and that, and look at me now, showing off everything that I got.
The newscast that's more than just the news of the day.
Just a ton of explosions.
Jet is within a few meters of the wing.
With Donna Friesen.
We are less than a kilometer away from Gaza.
Canada's award-winning Global News. Watch now on Pluto TV.
This was the first hurricane where they truly felt scared.
This Chinese fighter jet is within a few meters of the wing.
With Donna Friesen.
We are less than a kilometer away from Gaza.
Canada's award-winning Global News. Watch now on Pluto TV.
Now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Finally, tonight's Heart of America. We remember Lilly Ledbetter, a champion of equal pay for equal work. Ledbetter worked as a supervisor for Goodyear. When she learned men in her position were paid more, she sued the tire company for pay discrimination. The case went to the Supreme Court. She lost. So she took the fight to Congress. And in 2009, President Obama signed the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Restoration Act.
cancels out a different scandal until you become president.
It's an ancient tactic called politics.
I don't know, just pick one.
It's the most important election coverage of our lifetime, ever, all lifetimes.
Comedy Central's The Daily Show, continuing election coverage, now streaming on Paramount Plus.
There are people in your community making a difference. If you know someone Global's Susan Hay should meet, email makingadifference@globalnews.ca for positive stories impacting the GTA. Tune in weeknights at 6, only on Global News. When consumers in the GTA get the runaround, they turn to Global's Sean O'Shea.
Your tenacity and your professionalism.
Email consumer sos@globalnews.ca to get you answers and results. Only on Global News.
We have a future together. We can change the world.
The world is my oyster. What?
Everyone is watching. And I do mean everyone.
What?
Everyone is watching.
The challenge of installing these gates is not too dissimilar from trying to move a couch into your apartment. I think if you get halfway in, you're home.
If you've ever asked yourself, how did they do that?
The hydroelectric generators will generate the equivalent of 18 nuclear plants.
We've got the answers.
We are literally rewriting the book on how to design large projects.
The most inspiring man-made marvels.
I have to see it to believe it. Well, I actually saw it and I believe it.
Engineering wonders.
Exclusives from some of the biggest true crime cases.
They tried to destroy us.
True Crime News. All new Mondays starting at 8 and Tuesday at 10:30 on Slice. Stream and Stack TV and the Global TV app.
Streaming on the free CBS News app.
#24. I'm Lindsay Reiser in for John Dickerson. The final sprint to the White House. Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump both hit the battleground state of Pennsylvania to make their pitch to voters. We'll break down the latest CBS polling that shows
streaming on the free CBS News.
Welcome to the Daily Report for October 14, 2024. I'm Lindsay Reiser in for John Dickerson. The final sprint to the White House. Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump both hit the battleground state of just how close the race is, with a little more than 3 weeks until Election Day. Lead has dropped 1% in both of those measures since mid-September. The margin of error in our CBS News polling is 2.3 points. Over the weekend, there was another scare near a Trump rally, this time in California. A man was detained near the site of the former president's Saturday rally in Coachella Valley after law enforcement at a security checkpoint found guns in his car. Secret Service says the incident did not put Trump or anyone at the rally in danger, and so far, no federal charges have been filed. CBS News Chief Washington Correspondent Major Garrett joins me now. Major, this will be Harris's 8th visit in Western Pennsylvania. Why is she honing in on this particular area of the state?
So, Lindsay, anyone from Pennsylvania will tell you that the eastern part of the state is more East Coast, more Mid-Atlantic. The western part of the state is more Midwestern or upper Midwestern. Why do I emphasize that? Because Western Pennsylvania and its political proclivities are more like Wisconsin and Michigan, both also very important to the Harris Electoral College map. So, focusing on Western Pennsylvania helps you not only in that part of the state, but it helps you hone a message for Wisconsin and Michigan. But let's be more specific. Allegheny County, which is in Western Pennsylvania, that's where Pittsburgh is, accounts for 10%, or at least accounted for 10% of the 2020 turnout in all of Pennsylvania. And there are counties around Allegheny County that Trump carried. Biden carried Allegheny County, about 60-40. There are 3 counties right around that Trump carried 60-40. So this area in those pro-Trump surrounding counties, all of that is part of a Western Pennsylvania strategy in those pro-Trump surrounding counties. All of that is part of a Western Pennsylvania strategy, not only to make that state more winnable, but also make your outreach more persuasive, possibly in Wisconsin and Michigan.
And Harris unveiled a new policy aimed at helping black men. Former President Obama called out black male voters last week. Former President Clinton is in Georgia now rallying rural black voters for Harris. Why is her campaign focusing on this voting group?
Because it is now. One of the things the Harris campaign is learning is that in 2016, this was a complete blind spot for Hillary Clinton's campaign. Missed it entirely in Philadelphia, Detroit, and other key cities where black turnout in general was lower than it had been for President Obama and black men specifically. So they're trying to address something that they believe was a shortcoming of Hillary Clinton's campaign. Also address the idea that perhaps with a message nationally that has been very focused on abortion rights and those attendant to reproductive health care, maybe black men don't feel that their issues or things that are as important to them are being nearly sufficiently addressed. The Harris campaign is trying to address that as well.
And Trump is ever so slightly chipping away at Harris's lead, even though polling is effectively even. What's working for him right now?
Well, I'm just going to go back to an interview I just did on America Decides with James Carville, a very experienced and very knowledgeable Democratic strategist. He said to me, the Trump campaign has an explanation. It may not have the best explanation, but it's offering things in very sharp contrasting language. The sharp contrasts are not coming in through as clearly from the Harris campaign, and voters who are still on the fence like that sharper, clearer explanation, at least so far from the Trump campaign, gravitating just a tad in that direction over Harris, but there's a long way to go.
The back and forth over history and status. I want to play a little bit of what she said at a rally in North Carolina. History and status. I want to play a little bit of what she said at a rally in North Carolina.
And he's not being transparent with the voters. He's not being transparent. So check this out. He refuses to release his medical records. I've done it. Every other presidential candidate in modern era has done it.
His records, this was a letter dated October 13th, first obtained by CBS News. How much do you think that matters to undecided voters?
It is fitness adjacent, meaning how part of this conversation nationally. The Harris campaign has a very definite attitude that former president, how fit are you for the office of President of the United States? Obviously, that is a big part of this conversation nationally. The Harris campaign has a very definite attitude that former President Trump, by denying the 2020 election and rhetoric on the campaign trail so far, makes him unfit. But his age is also an issue. And if you watch Trump rallies, as I do a fair amount, you see he's not the candidate he was in 2020, certainly not as sharp as he was in 2016. The Harris campaign is trying to make that overall health, fitness, mental acuity argument a subtext to this campaign. But in the end, immigration, inflation, reproductive health care, and the fate of American democracy, those are the issues that show up again at the top 4 of lists of voters in our surveys and everyone else's.
Major Garrett, great to talk to you. Thank you. For more on our latest polling, I want to bring in CBS News Executive Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto. So, Anthony, we just spoke with Major about the push from the Harris campaign to court particularly black male voters. What does your polling suggest?
Well, in our estimates, Harris is getting the same percent of support among black voters that Joe Biden got in 2020. Now, there's 2 key points after that, though. The first one is, does her campaign think she needs to get an even higher percentage of that? That we'll see. But the other one is turnout, because there is an issue in which right now black voters are saying at an 83% rate that they're going to turn out, that they're definitely going to turn out, or that they already have some cast ballots by mail. That number probably would need to go higher. because you get an overall number of 88% of the electorate that says that they're definitely going to vote. So that's the turnout issue. And quite frankly, this race is so tight. Harris voters more likely than Trump voters to say that the U.S. stock market is higher now, right? And the ratio of those who say it's higher to lower is much more for Harris voters than for Trump voters, even excluding those people who say they don't know, right? Not everybody has money in the market, et cetera. So there are these other measures, these other objective measures, and I'll show you this one too, about prices in the last month. Yeah, a lot of people say and feel they're still increasing, but Trump voters much more so. So again, it comes down to not just how you experience it, but what you believe is happening in the country that kind of underpins a lot of that vote and why it doesn't move.
What else did you find in your polling? Because it's not just about not agreeing on where we should move as a country. It's not even agreeing on what's happening.
Right. Let me show you a couple of things. The most recent example is hurricane relief. And of course, and to Harris voters, what you believe plays out not just on Election Day, but on what people might want to see after it.
Wow, that is fascinating. Before we $1 million in federal aid to help affected areas throughout both Florida and North Carolina. CBS's Tom Hansen is in Manasota Key on the west coast of Florida with the latest on recovery efforts.
Their homes, and each person that we have met along the way is just their breath has been taken away. Road to recovery. This really is one of the spots hit the hardest by Milton. Lindsay.
Tom Hansen, thank you. A man has been arrested and charged for allegedly threatening some of those involved in hurricane recovery efforts in North Carolina. Officials say the threats forced FEMA responders who have been on the ground since Helene hit to temporarily stop their work and relocate out of an abundance of caution. FEMA has been the target of attacks and false rumors troops to Israel. Coming up, what that could mean for tensions in the Middle East as fighting between Israel and Hezbollah intensifies. Plus, the assassination attempts on break down the issues ahead. You're streaming The Daily Report.
These are the stories.
1, 2, 3, go!
These are the stories
1, 2, 3, go!
of we the people.
We're trying to generate our own hope.
It's a huge
now that are going to be driving your decisions.
What would you say to those who say, look, that's just democracy at work?
Listening to you and bringing your voice into our coverage.
I want a strong, proud America.
Is democracy on the ballot in 2024?
Let us help you decide.
America Decides. Stream our expanded one-hour program Monday through Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern.
Exclusively on CBS News 24/7, the streaming home of CBS News.
People with developmental disabilities were once sequestered by the hundreds of thousands in institutions.
Many of our fellow citizens are suffering tremendously because lack of attention, lack of imagination, lack of adequate manpower.
Disability activists have since torn down barriers blocking them from living at home or in the community.
We conclude that Title II of the ADA
And if we go back to prior administrations, the Trump administration, when U.S. personnel were hit in Baghdad, the United States responded by killing Qasem Soleimani, Abu Mahdi al-Mohandes. So I think this would put Iran at caution if they choose to continue attacking Israel directly.
Israel has been facing backlash over fighting in Lebanon that has seen at least 5 UN peacekeepers injured in recent days.
To other federal law enforcement agencies, that as you went down in the number of employees at the agency in 2022 and 2023, there were even fewer people left, and they were being worked even harder, more forced overtime, more travel, more time away from their families. And so,
what are the consequences of this exodus?
It meant that some of the more senior agents who were being asked to work excessive numbers of hours. I spoke with one agent out of the Boston field office who said as of September, he had worked over 600 hours of overtime. And he had worked so many hours of overtime that he'd actually hit the federal maximum cap for how much he could be paid. So when he was asked to work even more overtime, and when you mean asked, you mean he was told, he was working for free because he couldn't be paid anymore. So they were maxing out is the term they use. And imagine being told you must work this weekend, you must travel away from your family. But when you're working overtime, you will be working for free. That's a kind of an incentive for someone to quit or retire or transfer out. And that's the kind of thing that they've been encountering.
So does the agency know about the frustration within its ranks? Are they doing anything to try and make up for some of this?
They do know about it, and they've been trying to confront it. And not only have they been trying to hire more quickly, but they've been trying to find ways to incentivize some of their more senior people to stay. They've offered them bonuses in salary bonuses if you're close to retirement, but you're willing to stay longer. They've offered them, help with childcare costs. So they have they've turned the corner a little bit so far in 2024. They've started to finally grow again after having shrunk for the last 2 years. And they shrunk even though they told Congress, if you give us tens of millions of extra dollars, we promise we will grow. And in fact, then even though they got the money, they shrunk because the attrition was so great. So they have enough incentives now that they are starting to actually see a net growth in the number of employees and agents. And so they're starting to see some progress, but they still have a long way to go.
Is funding an issue?
Funding is an issue when it comes to their training facilities and technology. They have not had enough money to build a modern
in your reporting that you think we should know about?
I mean, one of the most surprising things was that, this is an agency where, promotions and hiring is a really, the integrity of that process is really important. And we were startled when we learned that the guy who was the chief of the uniform division, which are the folks who protect the White House and other important federal buildings, that he was he was moonlighting as a real estate agent, and he was handling real estate transactions for some of his subordinates. And then he was, promoting them at the same time. So he had financial relationship with subordinates that he was promoting, which really undermines the integrity of the promotion system and leads agents and officers to believe that, well, if you have a financial deal with your boss, maybe you'll get a promotion. And so we were quite surprised at that. And that individual ultimately resigned there, that this guy was, had financial relationships with his subordinates. So it just undermines the whole integrity of the promotion process. And that is another reason that people would leave. If they don't believe that they have a fair shake at getting a promotion, then why stay there? Go to another federal agency or go to a private sector job.